liberty and happiness, and struggle to get housing, struggle to get jobs, struggle to get through school. And so when we think about diversity and inclusion, is how do we include folks who have barriers, folks who have challenges, to experience life, liberty, and happiness. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any questions? Any questions? So, thinking about your profession, there's this lovely video, of course I couldn't get it to work, but do you consider diversity when thinking about fashion and merchandise? Yeah? Say your name again.
Me?
Yes.
Asia.
Asia. So I saw you nodding. And what were you thinking about? When you think about, how do you think about diversity when you're thinking about?
Well, I thought it made me think of two recent things. People with mental disabilities, like such as Down syndrome, being in fashion shows, and as well as the plus size model being on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Okay. Other folks? Do you think about fashion, diversity?
I think one thing you might not have touched on is ageism.
Yes, thank you. And so ageism is one of the unique categories, and I thought about it as I was walking over here, and I remembered that. Talk about ageism and who does it apply to, because it's fascinating how ageism is kind of a unique category.
Well,
Thank you.
it's dysfunctional on both spectrums, because if you're young, you're seen as incapable of doing things that a more mature person would be able to do. And then the people who are like, let's say in their 60s to 70s, they no longer are able to take care of themselves. They take I'm just saying.
Don't tell my mother that.
Thing. I will go further.
Don't put a number on 60.
Oh, okay. Well, at a certain age, you're seen as senile, you're no longer able to function properly, or they think that you're incapable of taking care of yourself, your judgment is impaired. So at both spectrums, it's not as different.
Okay. So in a previous life, prior to coming into higher education, I practiced law. And I practiced law for about a decade. And so I can say with a certain amount of authority that these categories reflect what is written in the law. So it's not, oh, this is just nice, and we just need to be thoughtful of, this group or that group or the other group. But yes, and age has this a funny so for all of them, with race, we all have a race, we all have a color, we all have a religion or not, either you believe in something or you don't. For most, all of the categories, they apply to all of us, or could apply to all of us, any of us, in any given circumstance. However, age is the only category, so it's a little bit of correction here, that does not protect everyone equally in the law. The unique thing about the category of age is that there is a cutoff. So there's not a cutoff with race, and there's not a cutoff with gender or sexuality or gender identity. It doesn't say, the law doesn't say we only protect this group of people but not another group of people, or only protect women and not men, clearly, because in my experience, I think I've seen so many wage equality acts passed. Now, how much are women paid compared to men on average? How many? Who knows? Who knows? How much? So, okay. Other figures?
87 cents?
Well, it depends. It depends upon where you are in the country, but on the average, between 70 and 80 cents on a man's dollar. And there was recent litigation that was talking about equal pay and equal pay for women. And I said, haven't we been having this conversation in the law over and over and over again? And yet, you women in the room, especially when you're getting ready to negotiate with your employers upon graduation. How many of you all are seniors? A lot of folks are seniors. Okay, you need to negotiate. Please, 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 because we often, as women, and women of color in particular, we don't negotiate. We don't ask. Often, I'm stereotyping here, men, it is instinctive that they negotiate, that they ask, that they demand certain salaries. And often we feel, oh, we're so happy to have a job. And so has been a lot of litigation, a lot of law, especially when President Obama first came into office. The first act that he passed was the Lilly Ledbetter law. Has anybody ever heard of the Lilly Ledbetter Act? Okay, so prior to the Lilly Ledbetter Act, you know, 8 years ago, 8 years ago, it wasn't polite. You couldn't ask somebody how much they made. It wasn't polite. And so, you know, men were allowed to go on making twice as much, or, you know, $1 to every woman's 70 to 80 cents, and nobody could discuss it. It was inappropriate. And so then when President Obama came into office, he said, yes, you can ask, and you can go all the way back to the beginning. So Lilly Ledbetter had worked at this particular company for 30 years and had been paid disproportionately to her colleagues for 30 years. And President Obama said, you can go all the way back and fix that. Do we? Do we continue to get paid less than men? Yes. But we have to do the research. Look at, you know, salaries.com, see how much a particular job pays. Look and ask. And so I think within the last year, there was another decision that came out from the federal government that said you can ask, and you should ask, and you should make wage and salary information transparent so that you know that you are getting paid less than or more than or the same amount as other folks. So going to that issue of age, thank you for bringing me back there. Age is the only category that doesn't apply to all of us equally. We may all have an age, but only certain people of a certain age are protected. What is that age? Does anybody know? If you want to drink. What else? Who else? What do you think and why? Guess, just guess. It's just a number. What do you think? Nope, much higher.
26.
60, too high. 27, too low. Getting closer. Who? Yes, there you go. All right, so anybody who has parents that might be 40 or older, what happens to somebody who has been in the workforce and they're about the age of 40? The average competitive workforce. What do you think happens? What do you think? What do you think? You're tired. Okay, maybe. Okay, what else? What's your name?
Ellen.
Ellen, what else?
You're more easily replaceable. That's something that's
That's one thought, yes. Those of us who are 40 and older don't want to think that we're easily replaceable, but that is a perception. What else? What else goes along with that perception? Somebody's been in the workforce, you graduated in your 20s, early 20s, you've been in the workforce for 20 years, we can bring somebody here and, okay, promotion. What do you expect? You've been in the workforce, now put yourself in that position. You've been in the workforce 20 years. What are you expecting? Emma? And then what's your name? Experience. You have more experience. What else were you thinking, Emma?
I'm gonna say you're getting closer to retirement.
Huh?
Getting closer to retirement.
You are getting closer to retirement. So what does that mean though? When you're getting closer to retirement, you what? You're putting money towards retirement, but also, okay, just imagine yourselves at age 40. Where do you see, like, what do you see your life looking like outside of work?
Vacations.
Vacation. What else?
Children.
Huh?
Children.
You have children. What else? I saw a hand back. I did. I saw a hand behind Emma. Yes. Say your name. Magdalene. A home. Okay, so you have a home, you have children, you have what else? What else is going on? You're thinking about retirement. You're an expensive package. You're an expensive package. Why? Because you have health insurance and you might need to use it. You have, you know, life insurance, you're saving up for retirement. If you work for a good company, your company will have a matching plan. Well, if you've been in the workforce, you're making more money. You want to make more money so you can take those vacations so that you can, but you have more experience. So, you know, you shouldn't, in your mind, be treated the same way as somebody 21 years old because I have this lived experience and I add value to the company. But a lot of folks, a lot of companies feel, oh my God, you're an expensive package. I can bring somebody in to replace you. who's half your age, who I don't have to pay as much, who are not gonna take the vacation days or the sick days or any of that. And so that's when ageism comes into place. And people say, hey, I can get somebody cheaper to do what you're doing. Yes?
But don't they do that? I was a CNA, and we were always easily replaceable. They always reminded us of that. We're expendable. So it didn't matter what age we were at. They treated us like that.
Yeah. Well, it all depends. But so the tricky thing about discrimination law and it being different and flipping to that side of discrimination. So what you're talking about is discrimination. I didn't create a slide for this, but there's two different kinds of discrimination under the law. There is disparate impact and disparate treatment. Different impact and different treatment. Has anybody ever heard of disparate impact or disparate treatment discrimination? Yes? No? Yes? No? Yes? No? Okay, so disparate treatment. What do you think, based upon the wording and the definition, what do you think that is the definition of disparate treatment? Aha! Yes, Magdalene, sorry, Magdalene. So, when you think about all of these categories, if you're being treated differently because you have a disability, if you're being treated because you're a woman. So, hopefully this does not happen in this day and age, but in the day when I was coming up, if you worked in a particular office, the women got the coffee. Could you get, and it didn't matter if you were a secretary or administrator or a staff member, could you get the coffee, could you get the coffee? And so so if you are being treated differently, you have to get the coffee because you're the woman in the office. That is disparate treatment, okay? Or you don't get promoted to a certain level because of race, color, religion, religious creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression. You can't do this job because you dress a certain way and it's incongruent with the expectations of our company. But are you taking into consideration race, color, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression? And so it becomes that kind of a slippery slope. You talking about being in nursing, there's a particular dress code. And so, are you compliant with it? Is there a legitimate business reason for them making those decisions? Or is it arbitrary and capricious? Are they just making those decisions because you're the woman, or because you have a particular body type, or because you have a particular disability? So, the examples that I was thinking about was deeper, going to Ferguson, Missouri. So that's disparate treatment. Do you have a question, or you just kind of? That's okay. So disparate impact. So if disparate treatment is how you are treated in the workplace because of your difference, what is disparate impact? What do you think that is? It's a little bit more complex than this, so I'll just give you the answer. Disparate impact is when there are policies and procedures that are in place that have the disparate impact on a particular group. So for example, for example, you are hired to work at Hooters, right? And they have certain policies or procedures that say, you have to, I could think, you have to be a woman, you have to be a woman of a certain shape. I don't know whether anybody has filed a suit against Hooters, but, it's discriminatory, theoretically, against men, against people of a certain shape, against people who, and then I think they argue that it goes to their business model, but I think it's subject to scrutiny. I don't know, I'm sounding a little bit too lawyerist now, but, so disparate impact is, when I think of disparate impact, I think also of, has anybody been following what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri, or has been happening in Ferguson, Missouri? Okay, what's your name? Who kind of did that? So what's your name?
I'm Salem.
Salem?
Yeah.
Okay, so Salem, have you been following the pieces, not only, the merch, so the example that I use, which is kind of gruesome, is disparate treatment is the killing of black men because they're black. So that's treating somebody differently in a horrific way because of their color. have you been following the piece where that there were laws and policies and procedures where the police department were under scrutiny for giving out tickets and giving out tickets disproportionately? So this was one of the things that they did, was that they would give out, traffic violations, but they were giving them out disproportionately to people of color. And so, and their policies were written so that they kind of justify it. So, for example, we'll look at somebody with a disability. If somebody has a disability, the question becomes, can you perform the essential functions of the job? That's with any kind of, any type of difference. Can you do the job? Can you perform the essential functions of the job? But let's say I have a job in my office and you're a data processor. But I say, in order for you to do this job, you have to pick up a 50-pound pack of paper. Now, in this day and age, we're practically paperless. But if you have a kind of a random job requirement that doesn't necessarily relate to the job, but has a disparate impact on a certain population, am I sounding too legalese? No? Yes? You're following me? Policies and procedures that impact different groups differently. All right. So here's the definition. Found this online in an internet search, and then I couldn't find where I found it, and it was a wonderful definition. But dealing with concepts of acceptance and respect. So I think that that's kind of the bringing the people together, the inclusion piece. But recognizing each individual is unique, recognizing their differences and appreciate. And I think in this particular class, because you have such an appreciation for different styles, different designs, different ways of expressing and marketing those expressions, that's also important there. Then, but it can also be along the many dimensions that we talked about: race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, age, physical ability, religious beliefs, and other ideologies. But the whole underlying premise, and I keep going back to this, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is that it is in this explanation that people want to be safe and positive and have a nurturing environment. So when we think about you all coming here to the University of Rhode Island, the folks in the admissions department are very intentional about having balance. So how many folks are in-state? How many folks are out of state? Okay, did you see the balance? I'm sorry, do it again. In-state, raise your hand, look around. Out of state, look around, okay? So a little more out of state than in-state in this particular class, but there was a balance, okay, of in-state students versus out-of-state students, male students versus female. Higher education for the last decade has been dominated by women. Women have been 55, if not more, % of people who are in higher education. But we try to maintain that balance of 55-45. We try to represent and mirror the populations that are within the United States. Okay, I'm going on. So we were going to do this exercise, a stand, and I think we began to do some of it, but it might be fun to do it a little bit. So I see a lot of you have your laptops. You just put your laptops to the side for a little bit. And so we can potentially see some of the work that exists in this class. So, yeah, if you're just stretching your legs. So, in this exercise, it's kind of, the goal is not intended to out anybody, and only stand if you feel comfortable. But think about yourself, and I like to do this exercise. If you've done this exercise before, everyone does it a little bit different. But think about not only you, maybe you first. I'm not trying to out you if you don't feel comfortable, but you, and then think about your family, your immediate family, and the people in your circle, your tight-knit circle, who you care about. These are the people that, if somebody messed with them, you would mess with that person, okay? These are people who you care about. So, find that criteria. If you come from a family of more than 2 children, 3 children or more, stand. Okay, so stay standing if you have more than 4 children in your family. Okay, all right. How many children do you have in your family?
6.
6, wow. How many?
There are 8 of us.
8 total. Who can top 8? Anybody have more than 8? Okay, 8. All right, great. All right, so if you yourself speak more than one language, stand.
Does that mean
No, just you speak more than one language. Okay, wow, wow, wow. All right, in the back row, what languages do you all speak? Huh?
Spanish and English?
Spanish and English?
English and come on.
Say it louder for me.
Come on.
Come on. Yes.
English and a variation of English. It's more like Liberian English.
Okay.
It's kind of different.
Do they call it like a patois, or Creole, or what is the word that they
Well,
use?
we call it colloquial.
Okay, very good. What do you speak?
Spanish, English, and some Italian.
Spanish, English. Anybody speak more than 2 languages? Who speaks? Anybody? Oh, okay. What language is over here? Emma.
Spanish, English, and French.
Spanish, English, and French.
Magdalene.
Magleni.
English and Creole.
Which Creole? Creole of what language?
Like Hebrew.
Okay. All right. Yes.
English, Arabic, and French.
All right. English, Arabic, and French. Yes.
English, Spanish, and French.
Okay. So if your parents were born outside of the United States, stand. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well. Right. Okay. Where were people born? Or their parents? Yes. In Portugal. Yes. Italy. Yes. Sweden. Was it you or your parents?
My parents.
Okay. You or your parent? Okay. Parent? Lebanon. DR. Yes. Okay. Yes.
My dad is from Liberia.
Excellent. Yes.
Cambodia.
Cambodia. Okay. In the back.
Same.
Same? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah?
Peru.
Peru. Okay. And yes, in the back corner. Korea and you shared. DR?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Excellent. If you or someone in your family is in, you or somebody in that tight circle, is in a relationship, could be marriage, could be close relationship with somebody of a different religion. Ooh, look at the heads all went up. Okay.
She's Christian. She's Muslim and she's dating a Christian guy.
Okay. Okay, that's the, yeah.
Does that like include like atheists and like some
Could.
other religions?
Okay. So, stand if you or somebody you know has a disability. All right, so folks, I'm going to challenge, who are sitting down, I'm going to challenge you to think about the definition of a disability. And I'm going to have to ponder it up, because I haven't pondered that in a long time. Disability is a physical or physiological condition that substantially impairs one or more major life functions. Uh-oh, what made you stand up? What made you stand up? She has autism. What did you think? What made you stand up? You were sitting down before, you're like, I don't know anybody with disabilities. What do you think?
Before, like eyesight and hearing.
Eyesight or hearing. Okay, what were you thinking? What made you sit and now stand up?
Eyesight on hand.
Okay, eyesight or hearing. Why are you sitting? You don't know anybody?
Actually, my cousin has diabetes.
Okay, so, and this is a good example. So stand up. So we often do not think of disabilities as including things like cancer. How many people know somebody who has had cancer? Okay, folks who are sitting down. Okay, how many people know somebody who has had asthma? Okay, now we don't usually think about it, but breathing is a major life function. How about that? Thank you, thank you. So hopefully that's such a bloody week a little bit, and I think I'm at, yep, we're getting close. All right, so let's see how far we talk about inclusivity. I think Joe was really great about, go deeper. If we had more time, what's unconscious bias? Wow. Okay, because I know all of you know what bias is. All of you know what prejudice is. All of you know what it's like to treat somebody, harsh or different because of their difference. But how many people have ever heard of this term, unconscious bias? Okay, all right, okay. Raise them high, raise them high. Okay, I'm not remembering all the names here. So what is unconscious bias? So nobody Googling it, just come from your mind, from your heart. Okay, who can tell me? Because you're thinking, yeah. Asia?
Quote me on this. but,
Okay, no, this is a learning experience.
like when, I know I shouldn't use the word in the definition, but being biased, like unintentionally.
Okay, keep going. Anybody want to help Asia? Yes.
Basically, if you say something or do something unconsciously and it is a bias, like, something that is sexist, something that is, racially, like, the term gay. People use it all the time, not understanding that it has another meaning to it, and it's just
Or they do understand, but they may not. I think most
using
people.
it in a negative way.
Yeah. I think most people understand the multiple meanings of gay or saying that's so gay, but not always appreciating how insensitive it could be, depending upon whose job.
Or say something towards women like, oh, well, aren't you supposed to be in the kitchen or something like that?
Absolutely. Joe, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah, I was just gonna say not having backup for your opinion.
Ooh. Sometimes that's the case. Other folks, what is unconscious bias? Yes.
I thought of if your parents bring you up with a certain view and you don't really know that it's wrong, but that's how your parents taught you.
What's your name? Allison. Allison, you're spot on with this because I would suggest that all of us, myself, the diversity professional for the last 20 some odd years, can be guilty of unconscious bias because what Allison said, we all have lived experiences. You grew up in a house, you grew up, you went to a particular school, and your lived experiences, whether positive or negative, frame who we are, how we see the world. And when you see the world in a particular way, it's not necessarily intended to be malicious or cruel or insensitive, but it can sometimes come across that way. And then sometimes have very, very serious impact. And so an example, a horrible example, I sit on these search committees. And often I'm in these groups with wonderful, very well-intended people who say, yes, I love diversity, I embrace diversity. And yet, when confronted with two candidates, and one who might be a little different, the tendency is for us to gravitate towards, to give more deference to be more forgiving of people who look like us and have our lived experience. So study after study, example after example, when you give two people that are similarly situated, if you're dealing with somebody who's like you, you tend to say, oh, well, I understand why she may have spoken that way, or I understand why he may have said that. And that translates into, we'll give that person the job, or we'll give that person the promotion, or we'll give that person this opportunity, and that other person who's different, maybe not so much. So what I want you to do is kind of challenge some of these unconscious biases that we all have, and maybe you're not so conscious of them. So kind of checking yourself when you see somebody and you make a determination about them. Is it based in truth? Is it based upon the fact that you know them, that you took the time to get to know them, to ask the questions, to experience them? Or is it because you have these lived experiences that are formed by your parents or your grandparents or other folks? So that's parent teacher, that's just lots and lots of boring statistics, but why we need to be thinking about this, the future. That was the previous slide. The future is, in 2013, more than half the babies who were born in the United States were born to people of color. Well, that's going to translate into the workforce of the future. The workforce of the future is going to be much more culturally diverse. 17.6% of people who with disabilities were employed in 2013. The law has changed such that people with disabilities and people who have veteran status are protected, that we will be tracking those. The federal government wishes to track that. And so the population that we experience, that we live, the population of our future, by 2050, which seems forever to me, and God willing, I won't be in the workforce by then, but has no real clear racial or ethnic majority. We don't have time to go into all of this because my time is out, but I do want to do a little exercise with you. So I talked a little bit about Ferguson before. The business case for you all, before we leave. A few more questions, just like have time. Can you list a few reasons why diversity and inclusion is important to you all? As text